This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, this is the one I can feel it. Podcast. The first and the best Chiefs podcast. Real ones know the show is called Amateur Hour. The Amateur Hour podcast is now airing on KC Sports Network. Ryan Scott Hall and his Dirkness are back again. We've got football, friendship, and fun. All these shows, we're still number one, season 12. Oh, wow, here it comes. Welcome, my friends, to Amateur Hour podcast. Man, I can't hit that note right. Podcast! Is that right? Well.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
What is this, Amateur Hour?
Yeah, I ain't no Superman businessman like you. You know, I'm just an
amateur,
I suppose.
Amateur Hour
Is what's happening.
Amateur Hour
Is what's happening.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall. And joining me today, fresh off back-to-back Super Bowl championships, my man, is Dirkness.
Sup to sup.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. All right.
All there is.
Topical.
All there is.
Dirk, I only have one question for you tonight, at least to start the show.
That's good.
How about those Chiefs? Oh my gosh, man!
You got to draw that out. How about those Chiefs?
That's fair.
The video of Andy doing it over the years, he's kind of toned it down a little bit, but man, that's what a great little locker room slogan. Fantastic.
The thing that I love about it, I think probably the most, is the fact that he used to be really bad at it. And he's had so many opportunities over the years to be able to say, how about those Chiefs, that Andy has now perfected it. Do you remember when he did the countdown? Wasn't that the first parade? 1, 2. How about those? Everyone's like, Andy, buddy, you gotta get this straight. He's figured it out.
Yeah. He'll be on point tomorrow. On point.
Man. All right. So, Dirk, I want to set you up a little bit here with a story about the night before the Super Bowl. Well, actually, you know what? Just to be completely accurate, it was the morning of the Super Bowl. I fell asleep at night, the night before, got myself a decent amount of sleep, but I woke up in the morning, I was still feeling kind of groggy, Super Bowl Sunday. So I said, I'm going to go back to sleep. I'm going to get like another hour. And in that one little hour, I had myself a very strange dream. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just all the planning and preparation, thinking about like what I'm going to eat. And it's Super Bowl and whatever. But I have a dream where Chris Jones is making chicken wings. And it's like he owns a restaurant. And I am sitting in this restaurant waiting for my order with none other than Frank Clark. Myself and Frank sitting at the bar, and Chris Jones comes up and like delivers this big platter of wings, and they're looking all saucy and good. He even like has sauce on his hands. I like dabbed him up and got sauce over my hand. It was the most realistic and absolutely bizarre dream that I've had in a very long time. And I don't know, that's how my Super Bowl day started. That's how it was.
That's funny because I had a dream that the Chiefs wasted a year of the prime of Patrick Mahomes, and then they won the fucking Super Bowl with the hardest playoff path of all time. Not only that, hang on, stick with me. This dream keeps going. They beat Mike Shanahan's son and McCaffrey's son on the team inside the Raiders Stadium and accepted the Lombardi Trophy from John Elway before tearing up the Raiders locker room. Now, that dream is batshit insane. I can't even, if that were to ever happen, I would lose it. I would absolutely lose it.
I think that it speaks to, obviously there's a lot of coincidences in there, but just when you think about how did we get here? Like how is it that we are sitting here today talking about back-to-back championships for the first time in over two, or maybe exactly 2 decades, over 2 decades? It takes all of these funky little things to kind of go your way. And, you know, man, I look through some of just the numerical data in this game, and there's a lot of really fun stuff. But to me, I think the story of this game, when I really look at it and the dust settles, it's a team that really just had no quit in it all year long. And to me, and I know it probably sounds like I'm pandering here, especially for people that know our history. But my experience watching that game, it can be summed up in 3 words: never a doubt. Never a doubt. I think that probably the most alarming thing when I really was like trying to sit back and like take stock of what's happening. You know, this is a third run to a Super Bowl, and sometimes you just want like some of those snapshot moments that you can hang on to. And when the Chiefs defense was taking the field in overtime, how calm I felt about what they were going to be able to do against the Niners offense. And then ultimately knowing that Patrick Mahomes was going to get the ball with a chance to tie or win that football game in overtime. And I had absolutely no doubt, no fear, no hesitation whatsoever. And it is just such a privilege to finally be in that position after all of the post-traumatic stress that we've got from every single way that this franchise has found a way to lose over the years. And it's just, it's remarkable how far they've come, man. It's really crazy to me how calm and cool and collected I feel as a fan, mostly because 15 plays for my team.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, early in the season when like the collective take was Mahomes taking the field for that final drive at the end. And it was sort of I didn't have confidence that he was going to get it done. Like that permeated through a lot of people, and he kind of didn't. And it was just like a feeling like, man, never felt like this before. And then, like it always has been like the 5 years Mahomes never been like that. So it was like, whoa, what is this? And then ask yourself, last night, how confident were you? Because I feel like every single Chiefs fan was just like, he's absolutely going to get this done. And it wasn't just like this tour de force of Mahomes. Like the first half was just like riddled with mistakes, not necessarily him, but it was like, It was sort of what we saw from the entire season, where they're making mistakes. The first half, I mean, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14, fumble, 3rd and 16, and then a field goal. Those are their drives. There was living with negative plays. The mistakes from the season, they fumbled. They had a horse collar penalty. They had an unsportsmanlike penalty. They gave up 2 sacks. Kelce had 1 yard receiving on the first pass play of the game. Travis Kelce chest bumped Andy Reid out of rage and nearly knocked him over. Man, that might be an overreaction, but if he did knock him over, that would have been like, holy shit. And it was just sort of like, what the hell is going on? And even after halftime, first off, before that, the Chiefs went nearly 58 game minutes without scoring a point, going back to the second half of last week's or 2 weeks ago AFC Championship, and then the first half in this one. Seeing that stat, I was just like, holy shit, that is insane. To go from there to where we ended up, it's like that's batshit insane. Even coming out in the second half, you're like, okay, they got the field goal. It's only 1 score. It feels like the 49ers should be up more. And then they come out first play, and it's like, okay, this is the drive. We put it together, get those mistakes behind us. We're fine. Just relax. First play, negative 12-yard toss on a fumbled toss. And it's just like, oh my God. And then 2 plays later, just a horrific interception from Patrick Mahomes where it's, he kind of gets those in the the Super Bowl a little bit, kind of has those bad ones in random playoff games. This one came a little later, and honestly, I feel like it kind of loosened him up. Like, okay, like it kind of like relieved him. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, okay, I got that out. Like, just it was like that streak of like being perfect all postseason where he hadn't thrown an interception. And it was almost like that was lifted off him. It was like, okay, I can forget about that and now just go out and play freely and just kind of be myself and kind of wheel and deal here. So he throws an interception. Next drive, they start at the 1 yard line because of a great punt, a down by a former Chief, Chris Conley. They get their way out of that. They have a couple questionable spots in there and then get stuffed on a 3rd and 1. Another reoccurring problem that we've seen from this team. So it was just like, man, 35 to 40 minutes of real adversity in that game, and for them to stick around. I mean, obviously a credit to the defense and everybody else. But I got a stat that I want to share here because in their Super Bowl wins, they've kind of followed the similar path. They've been down 10 points in all 3 of them. Were they down 10 points at half? No, they're down 7 points in this game, but all 3 of the games down 10 points, losing at halftime. So I wanted to look back. I was like, man, but they've closed these games out. They've won them. And just their offense at the end, I wanted to see like what they've done. So I looked back a little bit. Super Bowl LIV. We all got to learn Roman numerals now because we've been to so many Super Bowls that the best way to differentiate them is to learn Roman numerals. Usually I'm looking at these like, what the fuck is an L? I don't know what that is. And so I'm not sure what numbers these are, but I'm learning them now. Super Bowl 54. They close the game. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Super Bowl 57. They close the game, touchdown, 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 kneel at the 1 yard line. Basically a touchdown. I mean, would have been a touchdown. This game, they close the game, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. So they have closed out their 3 Super Bowl wins now with 11 consecutive scores. Technically 8 touchdowns and 3 field goals, but I would say more likely 9 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Guess what the average number of drives for a team in an NFL game is?
I mean, 11 probably. Is that
11.
what you're telling me?
11. So in this 11 drive little mini game that the Chiefs have played at the end of Super Bowls, the Chiefs put up 69 points on these 11 drives to close out 3 Super Bowls and walk away world champions. So just it's wild that they've come out kind of slow offensively in all of these games, but man, in the second half, in the fourth quarter, in the overtime of these Super Bowls, the Chiefs have been unbelievable. And that starts with Patrick Mahomes. It goes to Andy Reid and spreads throughout the rest of the roster. But that just kind of blew my mind and how they've closed these games and how efficient and how dominant they are at the end of these games. And that's what it takes. Like it's a long game. It's a long season. And it's a microcosm of the season. You know, you're going to hit adversity. You're going to see some struggles, but persevere and then be at your best at the end when it matters most. And that's what they've done. That's how they won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years.
I'll take credit for the Mahomes INT on the first drive at a halftime. I kind of called it. I said, everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Chiefs have to go and score here. It's a really big deal. It's so important to come out of half and get it right. And I said, the Chiefs are probably going to go 3 and out and everyone's going to freak out. And it was even worse than that. I just, it's like, I don't think they're going to come out of half and be perfect here. Interesting you're talking about these 11 straight scoring drives, basically. What are the limitations on that? That's just how they close these games. It's not like all in the fourth quarter or whatever, just how they ended Super Bowls. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. If you even want to get like a little more micro, I mean, look at like what they had to do in some of these drives. If you want to just start with the last drive of those 11, 13 plays, 75 yards in overtime for the game-winning, Super Bowl-winning touchdown. 69 of those 75 yards accounted for singularly by Patrick Mahomes. He on that drive became the only player in the last 30 years to have 27 or more rushing yards and go 8 for 8 passing on any drive in any game.
Any drive? Any game?
Yeah.
He did it in the Super Bowl in overtime to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
What?
He is absolutely incredible. He's so good, in fact, and that drive is so preposterous, in fact, that we need to take a break so I can gather myself.
Oh, God.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Are you okay, Dirk? Are you all right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Jump the gun on you maybe a bit. Well, listen, folks, we are a sports podcast, and we know that most of our listeners love sports. And we want to encourage you to share your love of sports by coaching local youth. Our partners this year, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City, they need your help. Beyond after-school programming, the clubs offer leagues for baseball, softball, basketball, flag football, and beyond. All you got to do is visit helpkckids.org and click volunteer for more information. So if you find yourself coaching from the couch during games, you should consider coaching from the sidelines as a volunteer with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. Learn more at helpkckids.org. Click on volunteer for more information.
Looking for a way to make a big impact in Kansas City? Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City need sponsors for their sports teams and leagues. Help local kids while promoting your business throughout the KC Metro. Email giving at helpkckids.org for more information.
Jump in, Dirk. Jump in.
To keep going here? Let's do it.
Please. I mean, it seemed like I put us into break when you really wanted to say something about that. The only drive in any game.
Well, no, it's just insane that you'd see something like that happen in that kind of moment.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I mean, that's the thing about Mahomes. You can rave about, this and that, like the stats he's putting up and everything else he's done, but just like his will and his drive to win is just it's unbelievable. You just marvel at it. And that's what gives me confidence when you go into these big games. Cause I mean, you wake up and you're like feeling nervous all day. And then I always just tell myself like, man, like Mahomes is the top dog, man. He's the guy in charge here. And we just kind of get to, roll up behind him and watch him be great and support him. Like it kind of takes the nerves out of me to just be like, we get to watch him on the game's biggest stage create these moments that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives. And I just have the utmost confidence that he's going to get it done. Like some stats here, the win-losing in the playoff stats. So when he's down 7 in the playoffs, his record is 9-2. That's when he's down 7 or more points in the playoffs. That's a better win percentage than Tom Brady in all of his playoff games. Not losing or anything, just Tom Brady starting playoff games. He has a better win percentage when he gets down by a touchdown. That's insane. When they get down by 10 in the playoffs since 2019, he's 5-1 in those games. The rest of the NFL is 6-48. He almost has as many of those comebacks as the rest of the NFL does. And it's just, I mean, his playoff runs here, highest QBR in playoff run. This is in like a postseason run for quarterbacks. The best QBR for a playoff run is Mahomes in 2019. The third best is Mahomes this year in 2023. And the fifth best is Mahomes in 2022. So it's just, now we've seen 3 of the best playoff runs of all time. He's doing this with, the last 4 touchdowns he's throwing have now gone to Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and McCole Hardman. Those are the 4 dudes that have caught his last 4 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. He did this with snaps coming to his feet all night long. All night long. I love Creed Humphrey, but my God, how many low snaps were in that game? It was like at least 7 or 8. It was just nonstop. And a little play in there that I highlighted. It's like the first drive that they score in the second half. So they have the 2 non-scoring drives, and then they get the ball the next drive. And it's like, Mahomes is like, I got to take this into my own hands. And it's like a 3rd and 4, I want to say. And he kind of runs to the left and he just barrels through 2 different defenders. And he's just like, I will not be denied. I am picking up this first down. And you could kind of sense the, like, here he goes. Here he comes. He's feeling it. and it's time to get on the back. We have 3 points midway through the third quarter here. It has been ugly. It has been sloppy, but the defense has kept him in it. And it was just like, it's just a feeling that I don't associate really with any other athlete other than Michael Jordan. Like it was, I got a lot of Michael Jordan vibes from him yesterday, and just like, we are not losing this game. Like, get on my back. It is time to go. And to close all that out, he wins the game. Him running around after the game, that was about as good as it gets, where he's just he's running, and it's like media following him and different players following, like a swarm just following Mahomes as he's just running. He didn't know what the hell he's doing. He's just kind of running around the field. He runs through the end zone, then kind of down the sideline, and then just dives on the ground in like a heap of emotion. And that kind of brought up the Jordan vibes too, where he's kind of laying in the locker room and crying like that. And so it was just special to see him kind of lose himself in that moment and just kind of taking it all in, enjoying the moment, and just like running free, just like fucking did it, overcome with joy. And it was a really cool video to see.
A couple things on that. First, just in case people didn't quite catch this, you mentioned that he's 5-1 when trailing by 10 or more in the playoffs. The rest of the NFL combined has 6 wins. He has 5. He's 5-1, and the rest of the NFL is 6-48. He's incomparable, especially when he's down in these situations. It's like it fuels him. And it's so interesting. It reminds me a little bit of it's like a Pete Carroll-ism that, like, when you're losing, you should actually like get more joy out of losing than maybe out of like blowing a team out, because it actually gives you an opportunity to try to compete at the highest level, that you have to overcome these odds in order to, accomplish what you set out to do. Mahomes, the way that he closes these things out, I'm sure everyone has seen these numbers. In the fourth quarter and overtime, he goes 16 of 22 for 187 yards, 1 touchdown, 14 first downs. He finishes the game with 333 passing and 66 rushing to lead the Chiefs on the day. Going into the Super Bowl, we were talking about maybe there's some blowout potential here, but that we were both kind of looking forward to, nay, even expecting perhaps that we were going to finally get like the real Mahomes in a Super Bowl game. Like, give us the stats, right? Not just he went out and won or he was clutch at the end. I mean, he had less than 200 yards passing in the Eagles Super Bowl, right? So I don't know. I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways, this is the game that we were kind of talking about wanting him to have, despite the fact they only had 3 points at halftime. But like, what more can you ask from a guy? And especially considering the fact that he's only 28 years old. He doesn't turn 29 until I think like September. I mean, it's literally like he will play all of next season at 29. Is this the game, I guess, that you were looking for? I mean, they won, of course. Who cares? I don't care what it looks like. They won. But is this closer to like give me like the Patrick Mahomes, like the statement Patrick Mahomes type of Super Bowl? Is this what you were looking for?
I would say yes. The stats are there, even with the slow start. I don't think a lot of it was on him. I think the 49ers defense was playing really well. They were all over like our screens and stuff. They were winning up front a lot in the first half. Like I don't put much of the early struggles on Mahomes really. I don't know if he was letting it go as much as he could have been. But he's also, I mean, this is game manager Mahomes, so he's wont to not make those throws. But when you put the context of his drives at the end, that's where the special part comes from. Because I mean, what is Brady's most memorable Super Bowl? It's probably coming back from down 28-3. I think most people would say, definitely. But he played a big part in them getting down 28-3. It's not, and you don't remember that. You remember him coming back from 28-3 and being unstoppable at the end. So it's almost kind of similar to that with, different scores up there, obviously. But the will to win at the end, just by any means necessary, and running, and just like every single play, man, just putting them in an opportunity to win, even when you face a stupid play like MVS bouncing off a defender, and just kind of like, I don't even blame MVS because he's trying to make a play. Like, you should be smarter there. But in that moment, that was the overtime drive, I believe, right? It's either the last drive in regulation or the overtime. I think that was the overtime drive. Okay. And it turns a 2nd and 3 into a 2nd and 13. And they even cut to him. And he's got his hands on his helmet. He looks like crushed. Like, oh my God, like these negative plays, this is what we have to avoid. This is what ruined the first half for us. Like, we have to avoid these. And it made me think back to like the Bills play where Kadarius Toney jumps off sides and they lose their fucking minds, and they still have 3 plays to win that game, and they just do nothing with it. They just throw them away. They're not mentally overcoming it, and they just kind of it just doesn't happen. It's just ugly, nothing plays, and then they lose. And, it's kind of that moment there where like, oh my God, what is he thinking? Like, he loses 10, 11 yards by making this silly little mistake in this crucial moment. Doesn't matter. He goes right back to MVS on the next play. They pick up the 3rd and manageable, 3rd and short on the play after that. And this was just like, it was kind of like the evolution of the team where like, you can't let a mistake like that, like, get you down that much. They learned their lesson. I know they went over the top in that game, but the thing I was most angry about that day was that they didn't compose themselves to perform on those next 2 or 3 plays to win. And this game, they had a similar chance like that, and they completely overcame it. It didn't even matter at the end. It was just like, nope, we'll just keep going.
It's funny because of how solid he was at the end of the game. It's almost like I forgot the first half. I'm pretty sure at halftime, one of the things that I was thinking about was like how hesitant he looked. He was holding the ball way too long. He even had that one play where he like kind of attempted a jump pass, but didn't actually get rid of the ball. Like everything, he was not in rhythm. He wasn't in time. He looked unsure of himself. And to me, that said that it's probably Steve Wilks doing something that they don't do.
Well, and they're calling plays that, have worked really well for them, especially against the Ravens. Those little quick screens out to the receivers, they're picking up 8, 9, 10 yards of those against the Ravens. And whereas the 49ers are crashing on those, not picking up any yards, losing yards in some of those.
Yeah. And the first drive or 2, I think it was actually the first 2 drives, were almost like completely wrecked by one player, Dre Greenlaw. And it's like he was all over the field, and he would make a play and look like just an absolute maniac.
Yeah.
And
like he blew a whole mountain of cocaine before the game and just came out and just like.
And I'm telling you, man, like I tweeted after watching those first 2 series, like, he is going to be so gassed in the fourth quarter. You can't keep up this energy. And when he then trying to just run onto the field, but it's like he's sprinting out there because he's still so jacked up, and he pops his Achilles. I mean, I feel bad for the guy, but like whatever, mountain of cocaine, bunch of pre-workout, whatever it is, I don't know. But like, I'm not even like trying to report this. I just got the vibe that he took something and was so jacked up that like his body pushed himself too far, and that's how that happened. And I'm not gonna like circle they lost Dre Greenlaw, and that's what helped the Chiefs win the game or whatever. There's all these different little advantages, but how about this one? Travis Kelce, a guy 34 years old. I spent a good portion of the season telling people unequivocally, this is his last year. He's going to retire. Are you watching? Do you see him? He's going to retire. And
odds on that now?
0%.
Yes.
he goes out and finishes the game with 9 catches for 93 yards, which is more catches and yards than Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle combined. The third fewest yards that Deebo, Kittle, and Ayuk have had in the 48 games that they've played together. And in the first and second fewest games, Deebo got hurt in both of them. And also Kelce only had 1 catch for 1 yard in the first half. I mean, I don't know, man. It looked like 2 different football games. I'll say that. 2 different football games between the first half and the second half. And just some of the things. Also, I can't believe I'm even forgetting the fact that Travis Kelce had the fastest run in any play in the last 7 years of his life with like 15 seconds left in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, a huge play. I mean, you're taking like a 50-plus yard field goal, which we all trust Butker, but man, a Super Bowl tying field goal, you don't want it to be 50-plus. Like he ends up kicking like a 25-yarder or something. Like that's obviously a lot better. He did look spry. It was kind of amazing to see how fast he like the stat was just like mind blowing. The fastest in 7 years. Like all we've said all year is that like he's been slowing down.
You know what I think Travis Kelce took before the game? Bomani Jones's timeline. He just mainlined it. All right. He was all up in Bomani Jones's timeline and said, you know what? I'm gonna go out and show somebody something today. I mean,
he's gonna show Andy Reid something. What did you think of the chest bump? I thought it was pretty out of line. I was just like, what the hell is going on? And I think it did kind of affect him. He just looked like kind of aloof after that. I think he was maybe almost like embarrassed by it a little bit and just kind of I don't know, took him out. Like, damn, how could I get like that jacked up? Like I shouldn't be doing that. It was wild that like I get the context. Now I was really confused during the game because it was just like I know he's open on that one play, but he ends up hitting McCole Hardman down the field, so I doubt it's that. But he gets taken from the game, and then Noah Gray comes in, and he's kind of the blocker, and he kind of misses the block, and it leads to the Pacheco fumble. So I kind of got that, but man, it was just like, you can't be going that insane. I know they have kind of a relationship where they like to chest bump each other. There was a good video from the Raiders game when he spiked his helmet, and Andy kind of gives him a little bump. So maybe this is just big guys, liking to chest bump each other. I could kind of get that. But what did you make of that? Were you confused? Were you angry? What did you make of that?
I was pretty zen, to be honest. I mean, it's the heat of competition, and we've seen Travis do a lot of different things when things aren't going well. And to me, like maybe in years past, that's not him going up to Andy. It's him and Bieniemy having a blow up on the sideline or something. You know, the guy that's maybe the intermediary between head coach and offensive player. Because they win, it's a non-story for me. If they lose, it might be something that I'm thinking about. But I'm still not thinking that it's like a long-term problem. Oh, is there a fracture in the locker room? Like, no, I'm not thinking about anything like that.
Well, it could be something like not like that, but it would be like what's wrong with like why are they so revved up? Like, and with the struggles that were going like along with it, it was just like, guys, you got to relax. Like, I get that you're jacked up for the big game here, but just like relax. And just like the look on his face, like he looked so fucking angry. So it was just like. It was like he was attacking. It was like, dude, relax.
I do think that in that moment, like if I'm trying to put myself in Travis Kelce's shoes, in that moment, I think it's just, if not now, when? Like, I know that we've done this throughout the season where if I have a big play or I've, been on the field for 6 straight or whatever, that you're going to pull me off and give me a breather. Like, coach, we're in the fucking red zone and I'm on the sideline. And the guy playing my position just missed a block and we lost the ball. We fumbled the ball. Like, we just had the only offensive play of this game for us that has mattered. We've done nothing. And we get down into the red zone and you pulled me off the field, And to me, like, I think that Kelce, dare I say justified. Sometimes, I mean, look, like, how many times throughout Andy Reid's career do you think that he probably needed somebody to get in his face and try to snap him out of something? And I'm not saying that like after that Kelce exchange that suddenly the rest of the game Andy Reid was flawless. But I do think that, you know, tension's high, emotions are revving hot, and you know, I was not really worried about it in the moment. I will say though that I didn't really know how they were going to start scoring, because as you mentioned, like a lot of the plays that they weren't successful on, they were going to like this. Andy is calling the good plays, and you know, you still kind of have that faith that they're going to break through. But I did find myself kind of sitting there at halftime and wondering, like, I have no idea how this is going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can't wait to see it, because I still believe that it's going to unfold in favor of the Chiefs. I mean, we have now, Dirk, spent 35 minutes largely discussing this offense. Is it time that we maybe shift and look to Spags and the defense and the job that they played in this game?
Well, yeah, I'll segue us here.
Sure.
So we talked a lot about Mahomes. It's just kind of two ways to look at this game. One was just like, holy shit, we got fucking Patrick Mahomes on our team, and that's why we won the Super Bowl. Never doubt Patrick Mahomes. I'm never betting against Patrick Mahomes again. But another part of me feels like it was just like a team win from top to bottom, and you just kind of reflect on just all these moments, all these plays, like kind of along the way. And you know, it goes back to the middle of the season, and just for this team to kind of pivot from what they have been the last 5 years and just, okay, now we're going to change our identity. Now we're going to take the ball out of the best player that many of us have ever seen play the game. We're going to take it out of his hands, and we're going to rely on the defense, and we're going to rely on the running game, and we're going to rely on a kicker. Like, just doing that is insane. And then Mahomes on Pat McAfee today kind of said something, and he kind of credited the Week 18 game where all the backups played as kind of like an energy shift for the team, and he was just kind of like, we could all kind of feel that, and it kind of just like got to him, like, man, we got to get back to playing our style of ball. Like, he kind of looked at what they were doing out there, and everyone was just playing free, and he kind of enjoyed the energy. And I think it was just kind of like, you start struggling early in the season, you start putting all that pressure on yourself, and you're just like, okay, now we got to do it this week. We got to shake out of it this week, and this is the week it's going to happen. And then it doesn't, and you're like, and that's what kind of leads to like that blow up along the way, like against the Bills. So it was kind of interesting to see him credit that, and that's like the whole team. You're looking at the entire roster right there, and then you think of the guys in the Super Bowl yesterday, lesser guys like McCole Hardman catches the game-winning touchdown. Mike Pennell, one of the best players on the field. He had the second best PFF grade, I want to say. The best was Leo Chenal. These are bottom roster guys. Pennell's a free agent in October. Leo Chenal is our fourth linebacker. He plays a huge role in that game. He looks fantastic. Joshua Williams flying down and making a fantastic play as a gunner on a punt return. Our guy Jalen Watson recovering a fumble, which is probably the hidden biggest play of this game, because that's really what kind of turned the momentum where, you know, the Chiefs had 6 points. We're punting again. And it's just like that kind of freak play. And Jalen Watson makes a huge recovery where he cuts in front of Chris Conley, who nobody saw the Chris Conley revenge game coming. Chris Conley was dominant on special teams. I was just like, dude, get this guy out of here. And it's just like it's like an XFL, like the kick out, the coin toss thing where they're just like a sprinting to a fumble. That's what it kind of looked like. And he just like barely beats him. A hell of a recovery. So you look at guys like that. You look at malign guys. Marquise Valdes-Scantling catches a touchdown. I say his name terribly.
Marquez. He would never answer any question you ask him unless you get his name right. It's Quez.
Wow. Yeah, that's fine. I see what
questions do you have for him, really?
How about Felix making a play? Talk about bottom of the roster guy. I mean, he hasn't been active for 8-10 weeks. I can't even remember the last time he was active. Basically a non-player since Ominahu came into the fold. He makes a play, a tackle for a loss. Jawan Taylor, who's taken probably as much shit as anybody that's not a receiver on this team. He ends up having a really good game. Nick Allegretti playing with what we come to find out. I didn't remember this until I saw the tweet today. Playing with a torn UCI in his elbow or whatever. And I remember him going down on that play, and I was just like, oh man, I can't lose him. Like, I don't even know who the next guard up is. Something named Mike Caliendo, apparently. Assuming he was active. I'm not even sure. And then you look at plays like, the Butker field goal, the Townsend, the hold on that, where he's going way high, and just like, you can see how fast he's moving because everything's in rhythm. If he's, just a little bit later on that, it's not going to happen. And that's the really low kick, I assume. And it kind of like
drive 57-yarder.
It kind of messes up the flow, but he still gets it down just enough for him to be able to hit that. And so it's like Jet McKinnon gutting it out with his injury and playing in this game, talking about how he's looked forward to this game. And it was meant to be like playing against this 49ers team. He used to be a 49er. I'm not sure he ever really played. Did he play like a few games?
I think he got like some time one season, but I think he tore both ACLs in back-to-back seasons. One and one the next.
I just wanted to highlight like how much it felt like. I kept reflecting back on these plays, and I'm mostly focusing on the lesser, the lower part of the roster here, and how just those kind of guys can come up huge in a game like this. And it's just with one game, like stuff like that matters. But also the top dogs, because you rely on your top dogs in a game like this. You wanted to talk Spags. Let's start with Spags. The biggest play of the game is the 3rd and 4 in regulation, where if the 49ers pick it up, it's essentially game over. They could drain it down to like 15 to 20 seconds left. And if Jake Moody hits, what would be a long 40-ish yard field goal, then they basically win the game. So, and it goes into the 2-minute warning. So you're just like whole time. It's that feeling that I described before, the worst feeling in the world when you have Patrick Mahomes and you're watching the other team drive and you're not going to get Patrick Mahomes the other shot. Like immediately when we kick that field goal and we tie it up and there's 5:50 or 5:46 left in the game, I'm just like, anything but them driving down the field and draining the entire clock. Similar to Buffalo, it's actually similar to Eagles Super Bowl last year in reverse, where the Chiefs get the ball with 5:15 on the clock in a tied game and drive down, and they have a very similar play. Their play happens at 1:54, which ends up being the holding on Juju Smith-Schuster, which they take advantage of, drain the clock, kick the field goal, and win. The 49ers do not, and it's because Steve Spagnuolo puts Brock Purdy in an absolute blender. And they just have this perfectly designed blitz, Trent McDuffie in the slot, kind of with the back pedal before, and then blitzes. I've been talking for too long. So this was the biggest play of the game, and they killed him. It was what we were looking for all day, and we didn't see much of it until the end when we needed it most. And then Spagnuolo just threw that beautiful blitz at him and just destroyed the 49ers.
I love going through the list because it's just like when you win a Super Bowl, you want to just be like, and Jerick McKinnon, like, that's just, you want to go through and just be like, and Noah Gray, like you want to hit like all these names, and you think about any moment that they had. I mean, look, if we want to talk about inside of this specific game rather than the playoff context, which is just preposterously impressive from Spags and the defense. How about Christian McCaffrey having a day? I think he had a very solid game, and yet 3.6 yards per carry, his lowest yards per carry in any game that he's played with Trent Williams. Some of this is guys that you mentioned, whether it's the clips that are making their way around about Mike Pennell, basically one hand stiff arming Trent Williams and then tossing him to the ground and making the tackle. Whether it's him completely missing Trent McDuffie a couple of times, but McDuffie commanding his attention and forcing Christian McCaffrey to declare what hip he's going to come off of so that the team can clean up these plays. How about back-to-back penalties for Trent Williams? he had a rough one. And guys, this is widely considered the best left tackle in the NFL. And so
you didn't get to Snead pushing him like 4 yards into the backfield, like Snead coming on like a little run blitz. Where did that come from? He's probably outgained by 120 pounds of Trent Williams. Like he just drove him back. That was insane.
Yeah, I got the sense, and I think that a lot of the people that on social media that are talking about the game, kind of following along with the game, I really got the sense that people thought the Chiefs were being pushed around, particularly in that first half. Just kind of getting dominated in the trenches is what it sounded like people were thinking. Like the Chiefs are getting behind the sticks. You know, you mentioned the drives in the first half, some of these negative plays, and they're sitting there with 3rd and 14, 3rd and 16, some punts in there. And so I think a lot of people thought that the Chiefs were getting pushed around. And man, now that people are diving through the film, and shout out to people that are doing that. All right. Thanks to Ron Kopp and others that are willing to take the time to show me all of those plays. And like find all of the little things that happen. Dude, it was a bloodbath in the trenches. And maybe the key cog in all of this, as you mentioned, is a guy in Mike Pennell that, like, when we first signed him for the Super Bowl run 2 years ago, I mean,
wait. Was he in the last San Francisco Super Bowl, or was he with the Eagles Super Bowl? When was he with us?
I think it was the first Niners Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because it's been a few years. And like, I mean, we were raving about the way that he played, the way that he suddenly solidified the run defense and was clogging things up in the middle. And we're sitting here 4 years later, and they sign him off the couch in like week 9. And he wasn't really active until after Derek Nottie got hurt. Like,
and it wasn't like he got cut during the year. He just wasn't on a team this year. He was with the Bears last year. No idea if he played any games or whatever, but then he only played for us this year. It wasn't like somebody cut him and we picked him up. It was just sitting at home.
And he came out and against the number 1 rushing team in the last 25 years. And to be fair, Baltimore didn't even really try to run the ball. Maybe they were just so intimidated by Big 69 out there. But it sure looks like he absolutely controlled the middle of the field. And the Chiefs really, you know, the one bugaboo on the defense, people talked about the yards per carry that they were allowing, and the run defense is like where they can be had. And suddenly Mike Pennell steps in and is able to shut a lot of that stuff down. He and Leo Chenal, as you mentioned, I think the 2 highest graded defenders in that game. And like, talk about unsung heroes, man. Just the least expected guys that maybe ended up having, you know, 2 of the biggest performances in this game, apart from, I'm sure we'll talk about Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, we're gonna highlight some plays and get to the other big dogs here. A few other stats. They held San Francisco to 0 explosive runs for the first time all season. I think that's 15 yards. Is that what an explosive run is? McCaffrey's long was 11 yards. So it has to be longer than that. It might be 20. I think it's 15. But they held them to 0 explosive runs for the first time all season. And they really
they only allowed 4 plays of over 25 yards in their 4 postseason games.
Oh, wow.
4 explosive plays, 4 plays that went for over 25 yards in the entire postseason.
Which is insane because at least the last 2 weeks, they've been loading the box and, you know, daring quarterbacks to beat them. Like Snead came out after the game and he said point blank, we wanted to make Purdy throw the ball. I don't think they minced their words after Baltimore last week either. It was just, we want to make these quarterbacks. We know what they have in a running game. We know that you perceive this as a weakness for us, but we're going to come up and load this box and force you to throw it and see what you got. See if you can do that. And
against 2 of the best cornerback tandem in the NFL.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Chiefs are able to funnel so much action to their best players. They're setting their defense up for success, and so much of it is Spags. It's just it's exactly how he's drawing it up Teams are just letting the Chiefs get what they want defensively. And it's, I think, just because they're being outcoached. They're being out-schemed. Spags, perhaps. I mean, I think that the only, defensive coordinator that is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is Dick LeBeau. He was also a player, and he was around the game for, 60 years. But there's no, coordinator that is in the Hall of Fame. And I think that Spags is somebody that absolutely deserves to be. The only coordinator with 4 Super Bowl wins. He has the 2 most improbable Super Bowl victories, according to DVOA and advanced metrics and whatever, and that is shutting down the undefeated Patriots in 2007 and now this year. I mean, he's overcome some of the most incredible odds and had defenses do things that people did not think they were capable of. The Chiefs weren't first in practically any metric this year. They were second and third in all these different things, and yet they are inarguably one of the all-time defenses in NFL history. The run that they went on in 2023 is absolutely, unequivocally historic. Historic. I mean, we're talking about the defenses that they have been mentioned with in terms of they only allowed 63 points in this postseason to teams that averaged over 28 points a game. The teams that they're being mentioned alongside, the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Tampa 2 Buccaneers, and the Legion of Boom Seahawks. Guys, they are in rarefied air. And I don't think, even now, even with people being we should probably give Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo their flowers, I still don't think that anyone is getting even close to talking about this defense at the level that they deserve. And it's because we're so mesmerized by Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and all of the things that the offense does. And ultimately, scoring points is what wins you games. You have to have these points. And so people focus on the offense, but it's what that defense did this year that led them to this championship. And what they did in the playoffs is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, a stat to drive that home, you kind of danced around it, but they played the highest scoring offenses in the playoffs. They played the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th highest scored teams from this season in the playoffs. They averaged 28.3 points per game on the season, and the Chiefs held them to 15.8 points per game in the playoffs. So a 12.5 point drop per team in the playoffs. Just an insane run. In this game, they had a season high 9 unblocked pressures. That didn't really pass the eye test for me because I was kind of waiting for Spags to dial it up more, but some of those were just I think a lot of it. So they got in this 6-1 front. We kind of talked about this in the preview, but it was kind of talking like a 5-man defensive line. They actually went full bore and went to a 6-1 where you put 6 people across the line and then 1 linebacker. And a lot of people say this was kind of like the driving force of the Patriots game plan when they beat the Rams in the 2018 Super Bowl. And they just completely shut down the Rams offense in that game. And if you think that's a Shanahan-style offense, and then now we're playing Shanahan himself, so that just kind of I don't know why more teams don't do this. Maybe you're just not prepared. Maybe it's tough to do in 1 week to install that, and maybe it's tough to kind of have the personnel. But I think that kind of led to a lot of problems with unblocked guys like Felix coming through the line, like he makes the play, but he's unblocked. It's a mistake by them to just let him go. Chris Jones later in the game. Let's go with the next top dog here. The 3rd and 4 in the overtime stop, they just let him go. It's Chris Jones and their play. This is the second biggest play of the game, really. If they score a touchdown here, then the Chiefs got to go down to match or whatever. 3rd and 4, right on the 9-yard line, and Jones just goes right through. And they end up with Ayuk wide open because Snead slips and falls on the other side. And even his target runs a little inside and out. And he breaks wide open, but Purdy just doesn't have the time to do it. And Chris Jones is just right on top of him. So that one's kind of unblocked. But Chris Jones had one early. Chris Jones is dominating all game long. Let's just say that. I wanted to see more plays, but watching the highlights now, he was living in the backfield and forcing a lot of those plays. And it's just kind of the game's too tense to really keep track of that, what was going on during the game. But there was a clear 3rd and 4 where they ran a fake screen and going to Debo deep. And it totally worked. And he is open. And if Purdy has any time, he should be able to find him. And Chris Jones is just right in his lap. He can't step into it, and he ends up overthrowing him by a good 5 yards. So you could easily argue that Chris Jones stopped 2 different touchdowns in that game with pressures.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Chris Jones. Seeing that moment between he and Andy after the game, where Andy is literally laying on top of him like two of the biggest people that you could possibly imagine. And it looked so much like Chris Jones, just like as a child, like literally like joy as a child. And I don't think that there's a scenario where he plays another game for the Chiefs. Certainly, really? I just
still.
I mean, I could be wrong, man, but like, it's just so much money. It's just so much money. He's not. I mean, maybe teams will try to argue somehow because he's a year older. He's not worth any less going into this offseason than he was last offseason, in my eyes. I know he had 16 sacks and truly, like, there's no way to question or doubt the impact that he had in the playoffs last year. Literally closed out the AFC Championship, and just an unbelievable impact in the Super Bowl against Philadelphia as well. He's just worth so much money, man. And there are teams that have a lot to be able to throw around. And I think that he gave us a pretty special performance and a pretty special run here down the backstretch of the season to be able to say goodbye in like an appropriate way. And that was really what he was talking about. I think when they went into the playoffs, he's like, you have to start to realize, I know that there's a possibility that like this is my final run with the Chiefs, so we better make it special. And he did. He absolutely did, both individually and collectively. That defense was just, they were unbelievable, man. I do think that an overlooked play, I've heard a few people talk about it, but you mentioned what you thought was really kind of the play of the game, the 3rd and 4, where McDuffie is on the blitz, hurries the throw, it goes incomplete, and that was in overtime, right?
That was in regulation. They could have ended it in regulation.
The play before that, on 2nd and 4, one of George Kittle's 2 receptions on the day, they just kind of do this little, like, I want to say that Kittle like started to block, let go of that block, and then kind of flared out along the line of scrimmage. And McDuffie just comes full speed and takes him down for no gain to make it 3rd and 4 instead of 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. And
they would have ran, and then, if they get stopped there, run it on 4th down.
Right. And so, you're talking about clock and everything else in that situation.
You're totally right, because if that's even like 3rd and 3, I mean, that puts it into a run look for them. Like, it's razor thin margins there that really 3rd and 4, like 3rd and 5, you really feel the need to throw it. Whereas like them running the ball was kind of the fear there, where they do that any way they pick up the 1st down, it's trouble. And if they'd shown the aggressiveness earlier to go for 4th downs too, so if they get in a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 there, they'll probably go for it.
I will say, I think that the real turning point in the game, there's 2 events, and they happened almost simultaneously. So I was watching this game with my wife, and she is not really a football fan. And I think that in some ways my unbridled admiration for everything Kansas City Chiefs has almost like rubbed her the wrong way, to where it's like she's not like rooting against the Chiefs, but she's not necessarily rooting for the Chiefs.
Oh, no.
She's like, they just keep winning and everyone's so arrogant about it. And I'm like, honey, we deserve it. All right.
There's too much bravado here.
So she was largely like either, scrolling Instagram or snoozing in the first half. And as soon as the halftime show starts, like as soon as it's very clear that it is halftime show, she is up and alert. She sings every single word to every single song. She is up and dancing and having an amazing time. Okay, Usher. And I left the room for a little bit. I'm just, trying to kind of collect my thoughts. The first half was just coming fast and furious. And eventually I come back in and I sit down and I'm, watching the second half here. And at one point she looks to me. We're in the third quarter. Almost the end of the third quarter. We're talking like the final minute of the third quarter. And she's like, is it just me or is the TV really loud? And I grabbed the remote.
Side note, real quick. Did you see that when Nick Wright was with Bomani and Bomani told him he was talking during the game and Nick Wright doesn't say anything and just turns the game up?
You did hear that. Yes.
Fantastic story. Go on.
So she's like, is it just me or is the TV really loud? And so I grabbed the remote. And I, being a creature of habit and being a Chiefs fan and a very superstitious one at that, I always have the volume, at least on this TV, at 15. 15 is the perfect volume for game time. And
I'm more of a 31 guy. She
had it cranked up to 19. A Kadarius Toney Debo Samuel special, 19. And so I turn it down to 15. I'm like, honey, it's got to be right at 15 is where it's supposed to be. And she's like, you're ridiculous, Ryan. And you know what happens on the very next play? A muffed punt that the Chiefs recover. Shortly thereafter, score a touchdown. Literally the very next play after that. I said, honey, are you sure that this number doesn't matter? Are you sure? Are you sure that the 15 volume doesn't mean anything? And she's like, I'm leaving. And she goes downstairs and does not watch another minute of the game. So that's like, there's the turning point right there. It was the volume on my television and everything after that. That is suffocating television control from you. A very Spags-like performance. I had no idea that she
put your wife. You put your wife in a blender. Let's just say that. Can I just say, all right, on the punt, I haven't heard anyone say this. Why doesn't he come up and catch the ball? It's like a 45-yard punt, and for some reason he there and catch it. It's a high punt. There's no reason for him not to be there and catching it, and he's just like 5 yards off and pointing. First off, you got to be pointing. You got to be yelling with your life on the line at that point, and the guy's not moving. So I don't think he's yelling loud enough. Like everyone's kind of taking the heat off of him. Just catch the punt. If he catches the punt, nothing happens. Like I don't understand what he's doing there.
I have not been able to like rewatch the play. So I guess I wasn't like seeing it, thinking about it like at that level. I did, however, see, I think this was Schrager that said it was like the two guys that were involved in that play for the Niners wear numbers 28 and 3. The 28-3 vibes going on there. Some weird coincidence, which I don't know who's who. I don't know. I one thing that I think is important to at least just toss out there about the defense. We see this game from Leo Chenal. I think his two best games as a pro are the last two Super Bowls. Big game player. He's really he's had great Super Bowls each of the last 2 years. Apart from one very important and very impressive and explosive play from Willie Gay where he chased down Brock Purdy and prevented him from being able to pick up a lot more yards than he picked up a lot fewer yards than he probably should have because of Willie's speed. I don't really remember a whole lot of Willie Gay in this game. Honestly, I don't really remember a whole lot of Drew Tranquill in this game. He didn't get nearly as many snaps as I would have thought.
Which I didn't even see coming. I totally blanked on that. And then like the first drive happened and I saw people like put Tranquill in the game. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this because Gay's been out hurt the last couple of games. Yeah. It's just been this bliss with Tranquill and Bolton in there. And it sucks for Willie Gay because I don't think he's a bad player by any means. It's just like you got to get Tranquill in the game as much as possible. He only ends up with 39% of the snaps played. Yeah. And it's just not enough for a player like that. But I don't remember him doing too much. Chenal was great, obviously. Dick Gay didn't have that great play as a spy that I've seen. thrown around a little bit, but I didn't even see it coming. It was just like hit me like a ton of bricks stuff, and I was like, oh man, they're just like going through us 8 yards at a time. Like, what's wrong here? Where's the D? And then like it was a stark reminder.
I think that a lot of us have reached a point where it's like, dude, you have to bring Tranquil back. And frankly, he should just be a starter. Like he and Bolton playing together, what an advantage it gives you. I don't know if the Chiefs see it that way. Like, I think that they do maybe, but like he's still a backup on this team. As soon as they're healthy, it's like, well, Willie is going to be out there more than Drew is. And I don't think that Willie Gay is on this team next year, not just because he basically said, like, I think this is my last run with the Chiefs. I mean, he came out with his own Twitter account saying that. I think that after kind of slowly and in a roll bringing Chenal along, that it really is Bolton and Chenal solidified in that lineup. And I don't know where Tranquil fits, and I hate that because, like, it's so obvious how good he is, and there's no question about how important he was this year. But like, are they going to find themselves in a situation where they think, well, Nick and Drew play the same position, and so we can't really have them on the field at the same time very often, and so how valuable is Tranquil really? I don't know.
They got to use. Was it the Buffalo game too? Is that when Gay got hurt? At least the Baltimore game, they have to use that as like these two can fit next to each other. And Chenal is great, but I don't know if he's built to be like 100% of the snaps type of player. I'd love him in this, third linebacker role and doing these specialty kind of things, playing him along the line if they need him to. Like, keep using him part-time kind of like that, but I will be crushed if they don't bring back Tranquil. And the thought I had, the big brain thought, they've been keeping his snaps down to keep his value low so that they can re-sign him at a much better number this year. It could be. Janu Andy is carrying over into March Andy. Let's highlight some other plays here from the top dogs.
Okay.
Snead and McDuffie, we kind of talked about them. I want to highlight just the deep pass breakup from Trent McDuffie in that game. Trent McDuffie was probably the best player on the field overall. That's kind of the consensus I've seen. He was unbelievable. That deep breakup was, first off, a phenomenal play from Brock Purdy. He like slides. It's a huge pressure from Chris Jones. He slides and finds like a little room to make the throw, puts it right on the money. And then, I mean, McDuffie's just all over it. Like, it's in the back of the end zone. It's picture perfect coverage. That was really good. Snead, I don't think had his best game, although he was on Brandon Ayuk all day. And I don't know if you've seen Twitter today, but Brandon Ayuk's, it's like his brother or sister, and then like his wife or girlfriend. No fact checks on this, but both of them kind of came out and made comments like, only 3 catches for 33 yards. Like, what is he doing on this team? Like, can't wait to leave this team kind of thing. It's like Snead kind of put the Ayuk family in a blender, and they are spiraling today with the lack of targets he got in that game. And there's only one reason for that, and that's L'Jarius Sneed.
Okay, so Snead first, and please don't let me forget to go back to this. The other 49ers mess that is happening on social media today. I don't think I know that people look at the depth and say it's more important to probably keep Chris than LJ because you can absorb the blow of letting L'Jarius walk because of the guys that you have at corner. And if you look at defensive tackle, like, there's not much there outside of Chris Jones. And, well, I mean, he's 32 years old and he's free. There's not much left on the roster at defensive tackle outside of Chris Jones. There will be some decent free agents out there. I know that there are like a few guys in the draft that people really like, whatever. But like, it seems like it's easier potentially to find a corner, and they already have a bunch of corners in house. I don't think that this defense functions the way that it does without L'Jarius Sneed. And don't get me wrong, I think that you're going to find some of those same struggles without Chris Jones. But I believe that the Chiefs with L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie, and then a healthy Amenahu, we're going to play Felix more, adding a bunch of different players in positions along that defensive line. I don't want to see them play without L'Jarius Sneed. That's what I'll say. I don't want to see them do it. I think that L'Jarius Sneed has to be back on this roster because of what he and McDuffie can do to teams, what it allows Spags to do when you have that elite level of play outside and in the slot. The way that those guys blitz, how physical they are, the just absurd level of tackling really across the board, but particularly in the secondary. I mean, there's just so much trust. And if you suddenly it's Watson and Williams and, whoever, I mean, they could still throw money at corner without paying L'Jarius Sneed and maybe be okay. But God, we're talking about 2 all-pro level players. And I think that they find themselves in a position where they can give Sneed like a 3 or 4 year contract. And when you start to get the ability to get out of that contract is then when you're paying McDuffie. Like, I think that they are in the perfect position to be able to never have to pay both of them a tremendous amount of money, and they can make it work and move on naturally. He's so important, man. I want Sneed to stay. I want Chris Jones to stay. He's a Chiefs legend. If I have to pick one, I am picking L'Jarius Sneed. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I really I think they kind of define this defensive turnaround. Like, they kind of open up all the possibilities. They allow Spags to do what he does with the blitzing and all stuff like that. Like, Chris Jones might be the best player, but like, we've had Chris Jones, for this entire ride, and most of the time the defense has been, league average, slightly above average kind of. But the difference this year is the corners and what they were able to do, take them to another level. And it's just like, we put so much trust in them. We're able to come up and shut down the 2 best running games in the league by far, because we have that trust in the corners. We trust them on islands back there. And, we did it against the Ravens, and we're like, well, they don't necessarily have the weapons, that San Francisco does. Like, will they be able to do this against San Francisco, against Ayuk and Debo? And you go back to that stat where, Travis Kelce outgains the both of them with George Kittle. And it's just like, So absolutely they have the capabilities to shut down guys like that. Like, they are a dynamic duo. Best combo in the league by far. And you could argue like 2 of the best 5 corners in the league. Like, it's insane how good both of them are. And you cannot break them up. Cannot.
Yeah. I think, I'm going to be sad no matter who they lose, because we've gone through the list and people will see it as we go forward and inch closer to free agency. Dude, free agency starts in like 3 or 4 weeks. It is so soon. And
the offseason's so short when you win the Super Bowl. It's crazy. Right? It used to be such a long wait for old Chiefs teams. We'd have to wait months for free agency.
Right. I was actually I was chatting with a buddy the other day, and he helped me realize we always talk about, like, it was usually in basketball. People talked about it with LeBron, like all the extra games. I think if you add up all the playoff games that they have played since Mahomes took over, it's more than an extra season now. And so, that, it's going to take a toll on guys, but it's just so impressive. The number of extra games that they've been able to earn through their play in the regular season. I just think that for the price of Chris Jones, I think you can probably keep Sneed and Dana and Tranquil potentially. And maybe not quite that much, but you're going to be damn close, man. And it just, I don't know. I want to keep L'Jarius Sneed more than I want to keep Chris Jones. I think we've even seen, like, Chris Jones has been on better defensive lines than this. He's played with Justin Houston and Tamba Ali before, and those defenses were good, but they were not at this level. And you do need a consistent and incredibly disruptive force on that line, and they could in many ways take a step back without Chris Jones. I think that they would take a bigger step back and have a harder time recovering without L'Jarius Sneed. It's my opinion.
And I wouldn't bring back Dana personally. I think he's pretty good, but you just can't pay anyone, or you can't pay everyone. So I think he would be the guy I'd kind of squeeze out.
Possible, yeah. I love what he does inside outside. He's such a chief too. Like, he just came out of nowhere to be a good player, and depending on how much he commands on the open market, they don't overpay, obviously. But like, I'd give Mike Dana $5-6 million a year.
All right, other top dogs here. Mahomes, 4th and 1 run. We've talked about Mahomes a lot, but I just want to highlight most career rushing yards for a quarterback in Super Bowl history now. He actually, and also like,
isn't he second
runs?
Or no, wait, he has the second most in a postseason run to Joe Montana.
Second and third most. I have never once seen Joe Montana scramble. That was the most shocking stat I've seen. Had something like, it was like 150 rushing yards in a playoff run. Maybe Joe Montana was different. I don't know. That was kind of shocking. Travis Kelce, like we talked about, that play at the end of regulation, huge, fastest run in 7 years, pretty wild stat. We have not really gotten to the big dog, Andy Reid. Tom and Jerry, corn dog. Going back to it. I don't understand. This play has led to 3 of the most wide open touchdowns in Super Bowl history. Nobody seems to stop it, and yet nobody else seems to run the play. I think we ran it against the Eagles this year, and I think it did not work. This play seems unstoppable. It just confuses the corner, like, and whoever's inside with the rules so much, and like who's picking him because he cuts back out. And it's just like this fantastic little play that we found a little niche to that we only call in the last 2 minutes of Super Bowls or overtime to win the game, and it's wide open every single time. Like, those should be like, teams have lost Super Bowls like that. Like the 49ers, they got down inside the 5-yard line and could not, like, 4 plays at the goal line, could not convert and lose the Super Bowl to the Ravens. And we just trot guys into the end zone wide open. And this will just kind of be the magnum opus of Andy Reid. I thought, last year's game was like his crowning achievement, I guess you would say. But I think this play kind of goes down as, with the cheesy nickname, with the food related item, and just that he saves it for these big moments, and then it works so perfectly every single time. And also shout out the Chiefs for simplifying their offense for a lot of the year. And they just bust this play out, no timeout or anything. McCole Hardman, who's only been here half the year, they do it. They're running a little. McKinnon kind of looks like he's running like a shovel pass underneath, going on at the same time. I don't know if that's an option built into the play, if that's just window dressing. But it's just like seemed like a super complicated play to be pulling off for a team that's simplifying the offense and just makes mistake after mistake all season long, and yet here it is cleaned up at the end of the game when it matters most.
Well, and I'm not sure if you saw the clip. You're starting to get some of the NFL Films stuff that will be on the DVD if they still make a DVD. And Pat comes up and hugs Andy and Tammy. They're embracing, and he comes up and he's like, "What a call!" I mean, he's just, he's delirious at that point. But I want to do a film breakdown of Andy Reid just enjoying sitting on the set of like NFL Network or whatever after the game, because the sound bites coming from Andy Reid after this football game are priceless. He mentions it was corn dog with a little mustard and ketchup on it. Now, listen, folks. Have you ever heard someone say the words mustard and ketchup in that order?
I was going to correct you. I thought it was weird hearing you say that. That's how he said it?
He said mustard and ketchup. He did not use the alphabetical order, the preferred nomenclature, ketchup and mustard.
But
which tells me that Andy Reid does have superior taste and knows that ketchup sucks and that mustard is the superior condiment. Like, I'll use some ketchup here and there, but Andy put mustard first because he knows what's up.
Absolutely.
He knows what's up.
Absolutely. That is the proper order.
I also
it's like saying I'm making a jelly and peanut butter sandwich. Like,
yeah,
you're doing what?
He said with mustard.
What are you doing?
And ketchup, and I was like, even I say ketchup and mustard, and I love.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, Andy said.
Can I get some pepper and salt? Could you pass the pepper and salt?
Right. I also, my God, maybe my favorite post-game moment of all the different things that we've seen some great interviews. You mentioned the one with Jerick McKinnon. You mentioned everybody chasing Mahomes around. I'm sure that everybody loved seeing different exchanges with Travis and Taylor.
Everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Especially all those suburban dads. I think that my favorite moment of all of the post-game stuff is Andy Reid sitting there on that NFL Network set with his wife and saying, I've always said that she had 5 kids and it destroyed my body. I don't know what happened. I was like, Andy, like this is, I mean, you rarely really get the personality from him. He's typically even like buttoned up in some of these interviews that he does with Colin Cowherd or whoever throughout the season. It's not like he's inaccessible, but I feel like we don't know the Andy Reid that the players know, like the real goofball person that they all just absolutely adore. And seeing him make that joke and the way that everyone is sitting around like it's Goodfellas and they're like just cackling at this Andy Reid joke. I mean, it was my favorite post-game moment. Andy cracking a joke about how it destroyed his body that his wife had 5 kids.
Also, we have Andy Reid going out in the throwback Hank Stram blazer after the game.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, a little tidbit from today: they didn't wear the Hank Stram throwback blazers for the Tampa Bay Super Bowl loss, which at this point is kind of like they've worn them for the other 3 Super Bowls that they've won. Yeah. Didn't wear them for that game. And Veach, it was a Veach interview that I saw with James Palmer, and he just said like because of COVID or something, and we didn't do it. I think because it was just like I don't know, less formal or something. Again, I didn't really get the reference, but they seem to have kind of figured that out. He goes out in the blazer after the game. I'm sure he's there all night, knowing him. And he takes a picture with Ludacris and Travis Kelce, which is a beautiful
Mark
picture.
Donovan, like in the back, holding up his 3 or whatever.
Donovan,
Mark Donovan, get it, man. That is a fantastic photo. How about Nick Bolton being the leading tackler in back-to-back Super Bowls? How about that? That's a fun stat for a 23-year-old middle linebacker. Should we talk this three-peat? Like, I know that's kind of what everybody was talking about after the game. We have an opportunity to go for 3. So yeah, I'll be back. Andy, Travis, everybody, like they're all mentioning it.
One more,
please.
We got to finish out one more top dog. So we've got these are kind of GOATs, top dogs on the team. Mahomes, Kelce, Andy, obviously, Spagnuolo, Jones, Snead and McDuffie. There's one guy left. Getting a lot of love. Got a lot of love yesterday on Twitter. Harrison Butker.
Yeah, man.
Harrison Butker might have had the greatest field goal kicking season of all time. He only missed 2 field goals all season. He missed no extra points. One of those field goals that he missed was with some sort of I don't even know if it was a football. Like it was so flat that it was like kicking a basketball is what I've heard. So that miss obviously does not count. 15 of 15 from 40 plus, 7 of 7 from 50 plus, 2 of 2 from 60 plus, 2 50-yard field goals in this Super Bowl. The longest field goal ever, breaking Jake Moody's record that lasted for a couple minutes. In his playoff history now, 2018 against New England forces overtime. 2021, the 13-second game, forces overtime. 2021 against the Bengals forces overtime. We lost that one. 2022 against the Bengals wins that game in the revenge game. 2022 against the Eagles in the Super Bowl last year, winning kick. And then this year, forcing overtime. The magnitude of his kicks, the trust that we have in him, he's a weapon. I mean, even more so now that we're like a defensive team, that 3 points is a thing. 2018, 3 points is just you just kind of yawn at like whatever. But now he feels like a real weapon because you get to the 40-yard line and it's just like, okay, we at least have 3 points on the board right now. And having that kind of trust is unbelievable. He had the down season last year because his plant foot was hurt. It's clearly at this point, a fluke of a season. And with everything that you look at this season, how good he was in the playoffs, how good he was in the Super Bowl, might have been the best kicking season of all time.
And oh, by the way, in case you guys missed it, Harrison Butker now with 6 field goals in the playoffs of 50 yards or more, number 1 all time, passing none other than Adam Vinatieri. Butker's 28 years old, and he has the most 50-yard field goals in playoff history. Man, the team is loaded. You went through all the top dogs. We went through some of the like lesser known guys. I heard that Trey Smith had an absolutely phenomenal night, basically not giving up any pressure whatsoever. Despite all of the bad snaps from Creed, I think that one of my favorite clips that I've seen was him blocking Fred Warner all the way to the sideline. That was really fun. Josh Briscoe's tweet, "Can you snap it higher?" That cracked me up, Josh. I love you, Josh Briscoe. Man, I love the Kansas City Chiefs.
Three-peat.
What's the like? We don't have to go full off-season mode here, but like, what are the things that you think the Chiefs have to be most weary of? Like, these are the things that can catch up to us when going for a third title here.
Well, let me just say it's going to be, first off, we get to chase history.
Mm-hmm.
We get to do it all season long. Next season will be unreal. Just every step of the way, it's just like, can they do it? I mean, that'll be every single week. That will be the question. Can they do it? And it will be weird because no matter how the Chiefs look in the regular season, everybody will just point back to this year and be like, look at how much they struggled during the season last year.
Yeah.
We still can't, bet against them in the playoffs. Like, we could be the 7th seed going into the playoffs and everybody would still be like, as long as they got their guys, as long as they're healthy, like, we do not want to see these guys for obvious reasons. So that's going to make it a really weird season. No three-peat in NFL history, or at least in Super Bowl history. I think there might have been something before that. Since the early 80s.
91, 92, 94. Is that right? Something like that. I thought Dallas won 3 in 4 years.
3 and 4 years, correct.
Okay.
In three-peats across all sports, or all major sports, professional sports, even college basketball and college football, since the early 80s, we've seen the Bulls do it twice. We saw the Shaq and Kobe Lakers do it, and we saw the New York Yankees do it. That's it. That's the rarefied air that they're aiming for. And maybe the best part, they're already underdogs. The San Francisco 49ers favored to win next year's Super Bowl. It's a driving force for them all season. Like, please keep doing it. Please give this team a reason to think that they're actually the underdogs. It'll just be wild. I think one of the big questions is, does this change your offseason strategy? Because obviously the Chiefs have moved to such a long-term focused frame of mind with how they're building their team here. We're going to go through the draft. We can survive the loss of Tyreek Hill, wasting years of Patrick Mahomes' prime and winning Super Bowls. Does it change your offseason strategy at all where there's a bit of you that wants to go all in? Because at this point, you're chasing history and just getting next year's title. It kind of gave me I've thought all the time there's no chance they're bringing Chris Jones back. And now I feel like there just might be a way that they try to make it happen. Like, they're just going to do everything they can to have the best team possible next year. And people are going to want to hop on board. I mean, I know Chris Jones loves money. We have established that Chris Jones loves money. But man, the turning down the opportunity to chase history like that, it would just be like, Tyreek Hill right now on the outside looking in, he's looking at all this like, man, I'm missing out. Like, I got my stats, I got my money here, like, I'm good, but I'm still watching these guys, and now they're going for a chance to make NFL history. He's got to be like, part of my mind has to be like, man, I wish I was there doing this. So that's going to factor into every player's mind. And then I wonder if what the Chiefs do in terms of like, do they go all in for some kind of, moving contracts around, freeing up money, signing a guy for low money this year, but it balloons up next year kind of thing, just to get him in the building for this year. Like, I'm very curious to see like the offseason strategy.
And part of the, formula here where it really gets complicated, if that's what they wanted to do, they just lost the, money magician in Brent Tillis, who is really the guy that, has been able to structure Mahomes' deal and help them be able to get out of contracts with not a lot of dead money, things of that nature. I mean, Brent Tillis is a huge loss for them, especially if they're trying to get very creative and flexible financially. I'll say this. I don't disagree that there is like a huge tug at a player like Chris Jones to say, let's get one more, big dog. Like why would you want to pass up the opportunity to try to three-peat? And I would assume be the first NFL team that's ever won 3 in a row. But here's the problem. How do you compensate him for 1 year? Like, I mean, technically they just did it, right? He's probably not going to play on the exact same incentive-laden contract. And so he needs more, guaranteed money and all these different things. And so if you just say like, whatever it is, let's say it's just the franchise tag. I think his franchise tag, because of where he's been at, it's like $33 million, And so it's like the way to run it back is usually get these guys in here on 1-year deals. Let's fill out the roster. We're like, it's just 1 year. Like we can go all in, but that's like one of the most expensive ways to do it. And so I don't even know if they have the ability to do that with some of these guys. I mean, it's possible, right? It's possible. I do think that it's interesting to think about like, how do you want to spend the assets that you've got? I look at a team, and I know that we point to this all the time, and the league has changed a lot since this happened. One of the biggest trade-ups in draft history, the Falcons going from the 20s into like the top 5 to get Julio. They basically said, we have every single thing that we need except this. And it worked out for them. One of the other biggest trade-ups, I believe, in NFL history was the Chiefs moving from the 20s up to 10 to get Patrick Mahomes.
That worked out.
And it certainly worked out. The Chiefs, if memory serves, walking into this draft, they only have 5 picks. And so like they're in a position already where they don't have a whole lot to offer, where it might end up being like they're more likely at 32 to trade down and try to just acquire more capital if they're just trying to fill up roster spots with cheap players. Like I don't know, man. It's going to be very fascinating, the number of free agents that they have. The guys that are up for extensions this offseason include Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith if they want to, in addition to the guys who actually have expiring contracts. So if they want to get some stuff done early with these guys, like, I don't know, man. There is a lot to consider. And we also have to remember the fact that if Brett Veach continues to draft the way that he has the last couple of years, every single year, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys that you feel the need to pay. And so they're in a really interesting spot, man. I saw some tweets earlier today. Go ahead. Sorry, before I jump onto something else.
Oh, it's just wild. So I used to get on Brett Veach because I didn't think he could control himself, and he was kind of going all in, using these first-round picks and trading for players and then giving them big contracts from them. Just like, I was frustrated. I'm like, no. Build through the draft. Like, you need these first-round picks because of their cheap contracts. And then what really changed for me, what really swung things for my support of Brett Veach was trading Tyreek Hill. And I was like, finally, this dude has like a long-term plan. Like, let's see this play out. Yeah, maybe you struggle for the next year or two. We did not. And then afterwards it's going to pay off. But
we did not.
And now I'm kind of coming around, and I'm like, I want the three-peat so bad that like I want the all-in Veach again. I want to see him trade a first-round pick for some guy at the end of his rookie deal that's going to be, cheap, but then, fucks up your cap and, the next year or two. It's a funny cycle that has happened. But the three-peat, I mean, back-to-back was an amazing, and you're just chasing that. You could feel that the entire time. Like, this is your chance for back-to-back. If they lose this game, if a player or two goes different in that one, it's not like you can go back and get it next year. It's at least a 2-year wait, because you got to win another one and then go through the entire next season and win that one too. So it's just like, It's so tough to get back and do that, as Chiefs fans know, as Chiefs players know from having failed doing it before. And now for the chance to do a three-peat, it's just like, man, I want it. I want it already.
Man, that is very, very tempting. The thought of like you want to talk about dynasties. You want to talk about dynasties? How about 3 Super Bowls in a row? I do think that I've seen people already saying that like the top end of the potential free agent wide receiver market may not even actually be there. Guys like Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, and guys, we're going to start seeing franchise tags like probably next week. We're going to start seeing this guy's been franchise tagged or whatever. And that, man, no, it's probably got to wait till like the start of the new league year or whatever. I'm not sure how that works. And at any rate, the Chiefs are going to, I think the Chiefs are going to be a little bit better next year.
Well, that's how it should work. Because I mean, go back to the whole 2019 Chiefs strategy. It's when you have those dominant draft classes, and when they get to that period where they're just about to get paid, but they're still, entering their prime in terms of play, but their contracts are still cheap because they're still at the end of those rookie deals. Like, and then you can throw players on top of that. You can throw money on top of that. And that's when you just like start stockpiling talent. And they have a chance to do that with, obviously the 2022 class being completely dominant, but just young talent being littered all over the roster.
Yeah. It's a great time to be alive and be cheering on the Kansas City Chiefs after back-to-back Super Bowl championships and verified officially the best 5-year run in NFL history. Thanks for doing that research, Dirk. I want to drop one little nugget right here at the very, very end. For those of you big fans of Amateur Hour, have stuck with us through the many, many moons of this program. I spoke to a friend of ours this afternoon because one of my students asked me today, right at the end of the day, he goes, "Mr. Hall, have you ever heard of Nick Wright?" I said, yeah, I've heard of Nick. Why? What's up? He said, well, he has this tattoo. Never a doubt. And I just love it. I love it so much. Do you think, does he sell t-shirts or anything with never a doubt on them? And so after school today, I text Nick. I said, hey, one of my kids thinks that you need to start selling never a doubt t-shirts. And he said, tell him that is an awesome idea. And I'll talk to you about it after the parade. Also, try to meet me out there. I'm like, yeah, right, Nick. I'm not going to be able to get past security to where you are, fella. I saw you last year. But Nick, on his way to Kansas City, probably already here. Not that he would miss it. I mean, Fox is probably paying for him to be at the parade.
He's going to be partying with Taylor Swift, isn't he?
I would imagine.
Partying it up.
Right?
Hey,
yeah.
one crazy moment. We were getting killed at the time, so it's kind of tough to be like, take it in, I guess. But her chugging a beer on the Jumbotron during the game, pretty impressive.
She learned from her boyfriend. Wasn't it him that like every time he was at a basketball game or they show him and Mahomes, he chug a beer? He spent a whole offseason after the first Super Bowl chugging beers on TV.
But Travis Kelce, I expect to be able to house multiple beers. I do not expect little 110-pound Taylor Swift to get in there and pound a Coors Light.
I'm curious, like, and this might be more of an off-air conversation, but whatever. We won the Super Bowl. Who cares?
Hell yeah.
I've heard a few conversations over the last couple days of people wondering if like the real gleam of this relationship is going to wear off over the next couple of weeks while Travis is on a never-ending bender, and Taylor's going to be like, okay, can we like have a normal one today, or are you still going to be shotgunning beers with Pat on the patio
and belly bumping Andy?
Yeah, I mean, look, like maybe there's a world where if Taylor needs a break, she can go help Brittany babysit the kids or something. But like, I am just, I'm all over. I cannot wait to see what this offseason looks like for these guys. I mean, with like the added star power of Taylor Swift, they're going to be everywhere. They're going to be absolutely everywhere.
the videos, the cute like little videos of like, oh my gosh, she's wearing Travis's jacket, and then in the background, Jason Kelce just hammered, falling into a bush.
It's so
Jason Kelce just partying all night with a wrestling mask on for no reason, and dancing and just swinging his arms, and then just kind of
the overalls too. Oh man, those overalls! I think I might have to invest.
Hell yeah!
Of the Chiefs overalls, that would probably become my favorite outfit during summer vacation. And my wife would grow to hate me day by day.
Wrestling mask on. Put the wrestling mask on.
Yeah, gotta get my luchador mask. Folks, this has been season 12 of Amateur Hour. The Chiefs. I mean, God, who'd have thunk it?
Hey, next season 13 for Taylor Swift. Wow, can you believe it?
What's the
all the signs?
What's
I don't know. She just likes the number 13. I don't totally get it, but
okay. Well, look, I think that's it, man. Who knows when you guys will hear from us again? It will be on KC Sports Network whenever that is.
I'm so invested, man. I might. We might be doing off-season pods.
Yeah, we might very well have to, given the amount of free agency that's going to be going on. Everybody loves a little draft prep. Dirk, it's a pleasure, man. I will not cry today.
Come on.
But I'm very thankful for your friendship. I'm very thankful for this show. Very thankful for all the people that have been riding with us these last 12 years. We were talking about like on game day, kind of texting each other, like, how freaking wild is it that all of these people are sending us tweets about like, I'm listening to the 2019 Super Bowl win to fire me up for this, like listening to your guys' podcast from 4 years ago. I know I can speak for both of us. We're very, very humbled by the continued support of everybody. And God, we've gotten shout outs this week from Danny Parkins, from Nick Wright, from these guys that have really been cornerstones of helping us grow to where we are. And they're still here, having our backs all these years later. What an amazing, amazing ride. And, you know, for all of the ups and downs on the field, for all of the ups and downs in our personal lives, we have always been able to come back to this program and this football team and just kind of be able to turn to each other. I mean, dude, I'll tell you straight up, I had a horrible fucking day at work today. Absolutely horrible. And getting to sit down and be able to kind of push that aside, even for just, you know, a couple of hours with my friend and talk about one of my favorite things in the world, the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just such a blessing. It really is. And there's no way to be able to actually put it all into perspective. But man, I love you. I love the Chiefs. I love our fans. It's fuck, man. It's all happening. It's all happening. Back-to-back Super Bowls. Like it's, how do you even take it all in, man? It's amazing.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Being able to come here every week and just, I mean, to have people care. I know we don't have the biggest audience, but I think we have a very passionate, devoted audience.
You're damn right we do.
And just for them to care what we say about a football team every week. Whereas, you know, I've been growing up and throughout my college years and everything, just like been so passionate about the Chiefs and had so much opinions flowing through me, and always just wanted like an avenue to just be able to share my voice and talk about the Chiefs. You know, kind of pursuing journalism, but never totally following through with it. But having an avenue like this where we get to talk about this all the time, it means a whole lot. I look forward to it every week. Get the nerves energy going before pods, just like before games. But just that feeling is very special, and glad everybody shared it with us.
And man, shout out to BJ and all of our friends here at KC Sports Network too, for allowing us to do it our way. You know, that's like one of the most important things to us about all of these years was we want to be able to do it our way. We are amateurs and we want to stick to that. And KC Sports Network has been so flexible and supportive of letting us, you know, let our personality show as Andy would say. And you know, it's a pretty remarkable thing. And shout out to the boys and girls clubs of Greater Kansas City for riding with us all year long. Really hope that they were able to get some leg work out of that. But at any rate, this has been Amateur Hour. I am Ryan Scott Hall. He's his Dirkness, and the Kansas City Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Suck it, Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert and everybody else in the AFC West and the NFL too. You know what? Pat Mahomes has more rings than every other active quarterback in the NFL right now. Take it all. I'll talk all my shit.